Welcome back to Tears for Fears. I'm your host, Megan Shoup. I'm very excited to bring you a Thanksgiving/Week 12 Tears edition. And of course, I'm thankful for a lot this year, but I'm very thankful to you guys watching each week. I'm of course thankful to Pat Mayo and the Mayo Media Network for giving me an opportunity to talk about a very niche contest like Tears. And I'm thankful for 2 shots at Tears this week. So here's how this episode is going to work. We're going to first look at the Thanksgiving slate and strategies to consider. And then we're going to look and do an early look at Week 12 Tears. So if you're watching this before Thanksgiving, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving filled with great food, good times with family and friends, and of course a lot of fantasy goodness. If you're watching after Thanksgiving, no big deal. Just skip ahead in the time code and take a look at our early look for Week 12. Of course, each week, as always, please like this episode, subscribe to the Mayo Media Network, and check out Run the Sims to help you make your Tears decisions. So we have a busy episode. Let's get right to it. First, before we go tier by tier for the Thanksgiving slate, I want to quickly talk about short slate strategy, and especially for Thanksgiving tiers. There's only 6 tiers instead of 8 tiers, and that's the same for 4 p.m. only slates or when they do playoff slates. So Thanksgiving slate only has 6 tiers, and by the time you get to tier 5 or 6, these are very volatile boom bust guys. These are guys, some of them will get a 0. But it's okay to take shots because, again, everybody in those tiers is very volatile. Second of all, it's okay in a short slate like this to do more team stacks or onslaughts. If you're only running 1 or 2 lineups, then I'd say play what you think are the best plays, and then maybe in the later tiers take some shots at what you think might be lower owned guys. But if you're running a lot of lineups, I think it's okay to do a few that are more team stacks or onslaughts or game stacks. So those are just a couple things to keep in mind as we go tier by tier. All right, here we are in the Thanksgiving slate, and for tier 1, we have the quarterbacks and all the quarterbacks except for the Lions quarterback because we're still obviously waiting to hear on that situation. And honestly, if you're running a lot of lineups, take a shot on all of these guys because honestly, weird stuff can happen. Honestly, we've seen crazy stuff can happen in this 2021 season that's unexpected, but especially in the Thanksgiving slate, anything can happen. And so I will take shots on all of them. But if you're running one lineup or just a few lineups, it's Josh Allen or Dak Prescott. They're really 1A, 1B for me. They're the safest floor ceiling combo, but Josh Allen, even in the games where he doesn't play well, the Bills don't play well, he still has a pretty safe floor outside of the Jacksonville game. So for this lineup, I'm going to put Josh Allen in. And moving on to tier 2, we've got Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift, Ezekiel Elliott, and Stephon Diggs. I'm operating under the assumption that Kamara is going to be out, but obviously we have to wait to see for sure. And I'm going to have exposure to all of Swift, Elliott, and Diggs. But I think Dallas is going to lean them a little more run heavy. You can run on the Raiders and with their pass catchers being out. So I'm going to put Elliott as our tier 2 play. Tier 3, we have Darren Waller, David Montgomery, Darnell Mooney, and Michael Gallup. And for this tier, again, I have interest in all 4. Again, if you're running multiple lineups, I'm going to rotate through all 4 of these guys. But my favorite play is David Montgomery. He's getting the full workload now that he's back, and he had a great game against Detroit when they matched up earlier this season. So David Montgomery is my tier 3 play. In tier 4, we have Josh Jacobs, Hunter Renfrow, TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, and Mark Ingram. And while I have a little interest in all these guys, I'm especially interested in Jacobs, Schultz, and Ingram. Jacobs has been getting more usage, more routes run, and more targets lately. So I have a little interest there. Schultz is going to have to step up as a pass catcher, and I think we'll get more targets this week with Dallas's receivers out. And Ingram, I'm operating under the assumption that Kamara isn't going to be out. So, and he's also getting targets. So I think out of those 3, Ingram has the best floor ceiling combo. So for tier 4, Ingram is my favorite play. Moving on to tier 5, we basically have the Bills pass catchers outside of Diggs. We have 2 of the Saints receivers, Allen Robinson, who I believe will be out, and then Tony Pollard. So this is the way I'm looking at it. I think Allen Robinson's going to be out. I have no interest in the Saints receivers. I just don't see the upside here. And I don't love Cole Beasley. He's been banged up and hasn't gotten a lot of targets the last 3 weeks. I know Sanders' targets have been lacking too, but I always think with his depth of target, he obviously could have a potential for a ceiling game. Again, remember in tier 5 and 6, all these players are going to be volatile. So my favorite plays are Knox, Sanders, and Pollard. But I think Dawson Knox, I'll go ahead and pair him up with Josh Allen. Josh Allen always seems to look for him. He got 10 targets last week, and I think he's a good floor ceiling combo. And finally, in Tier 6, we have Devin Singletary, Khalif Raymond, Bryan Edwards, Cedric Wilson, Cole Kmet, Adam Troutman is out, Marquise Goodwin, and Deshaun Jackson. And the only 4 I'm interested here are Raymond, Wilson, Goodwin, and Jackson. Why is that? Because in the case of Wilson, I think he'll get a lot of targets. And in the case of Raymond, Goodwin, and Jackson, their depth of target, they could really allow them to hit that ceiling game. If they catch one bomb for a touchdown, I think they're your tier 6 highest play. So those are the 4 I'm interested in. Can some of those guys get you a 0? Yep. But I especially think Deshaun Jackson will be very low owned. But if the Raiders find a way to get him more involved, and I think they need to, then he could be super low owned and have the potential for a big game. Again, he could also get you a 0. So keep that all in mind. But those are my 4 favorite plays for tier 6. So that'll wrap up Thanksgiving tiers. Now let's move on to week 12 early look. So before we jump into the week 12 early look, I want to remind you that this is a early look and kind of my first thoughts. I've honestly devoted all my research so far to the Thanksgiving slate, as most people have. And so I will just cram on Friday and Saturday for Sunday's slate. So this is really an early look, first thoughts, guys I like, don't like. So I'll give my full kind of core plays, fades, and favorite plays in the YouTube comments on Saturday and also on my Twitter at Megs08 on Twitter. So be sure to check back there. But now let's jump into an early look at week 12 tiers. Here we are in week 12 tiers, and in tier 1, we have Brady, Herbert, Hurts, and Rodgers. So we have 3 quarterbacks and a running back, I guess. Just kidding. Hurts is running almost as much as he is passing, though. So I think you're going to need 2 touchdowns on the ground for him to win this tier, but he's done that about 25% of the time. So, Aaron Rodgers is playing very injured with that toe injury, so that makes me very nervous. So I'd say my favorite plays right now are Brady and Herbert. I'm going to put Brady in for right now. Over in tier 2, we literally have all the fantasy studs of the 2021 season. So you really can't poke holes in any of these guys, and I'm going to want to rotate through all of them. Eckler's probably the least consistent. If you're nervous about Rodgers, you'd probably be nervous about Devontae Adams. So again, I like all these guys, but I'm going to put in McCaffrey. He's going to pop off for that 40-point plus game at any day now, right? In tier 3, we have Deebo Samuel, Justin Jefferson, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, and Dalvin Cook. I need to do some more research here, but early gut feelings is I'm really liking Justin Jefferson. He's had put together 2 great games in a row. And if Dalvin Cook puts together one of those games with 100 yards, a touchdown, and a couple catches, he could be the high scoring tier. So for this tier, I'm going to go ahead and put Jefferson in for now. In tier 4, we have Chase, Evans, Deontay Johnson, Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, and A.J. Brown. I have no interest in Brown against that tough New England defense, and he's banged up. I have interest in all the rest of the guys. It's very interesting. You've got 3 PPR monsters with Johnson, Allen, and Thielen, and then 2, more of those touchdown big targets that can also break out for monster games. So different, but could, all of them could find their ceiling. I tend to want to have that floor ceiling combo, so I'm probably going to lean heavier towards the Deontay Johnson, Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen. And for this week, I'm going to go ahead and put Keenan Allen in as my tier 4 play. In tier 5, we have quarterbacks again, and we have Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, Cam Newton, Ryan Tannehill, and Carson Wentz. And I really don't have any interest in Tannehill or Wentz. Tannehill with a tough matchup. Wentz, they're leaning on Taylor so much in the run game. So my favorite plays are Stafford, Cousins, Burrow, and Newton. I know I said, made the point about the running quarterback with Hurts, but with Cam Newton, he's just built different. And if they get in, within the 5-yard line, it's just so much more likely for him to get a touchdown. I think between the two, it's much more likely for Newton to have 2+ rushing touchdowns in a game. And then if he gets a couple in the air too, then he easily could be the highest scoring quarterback in this tier. So again, I like those 4 guys, but Stafford is by far my favorite play. I like the matchup and the bounce back spot. So Stafford is my tier 5 play. In Tier 6, we have Chris Godwin, James Robinson, Leonard Fournette, George Kittle, Devonta Smith, and Saquon Barkley. I really like the Bucs here, to be quite honest. Leonard Fournette's getting a ton of green zone touches and high value touches, and Chris Godwin is getting a ton of targets. But if you think without Jason Garrett and another week back for Saquon Barkley, I think he could be a little bit lower owned, and it's worth taking some shots there too. But I definitely think Chris Godwin right now is my favorite Tier 6 play. In Tier 7, we have Mike Williams, Darrell Henderson Jr., Michael Pittman Jr., DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Waddle, Damian Harris, and Kyle Pitts. And I have no interest in Harris and Pitts. I need to do more digging on Cooks, Moore, and Pittman and their matchups. But early lean is I really like Mike Williams, Henderson Jr., and Waddle. And it's at this point, again, I'd have to do a little more research, but I really like the targets Waddle's getting and just his rapport with Tua. So Waddle is my Tier 7 play. And then in Tier 8, we have Rob Gronkowski, Elijah Moore, Myles Gaskin, T. Higgins, Kendrick Bourne, Miles Sanders, Brandon Ayuk, and Odell Beckham Jr. And again, early lean is my favorite plays are Gronkowski, Moore, maybe Higgins, Ayuk, and maybe Beckham Jr. So again, more digging and more research needs to occur. But I really like Elijah Moore. He's getting, everything is kind of coming together for him. More routes run, more targets per routes run, more weighted opportunity. It's all there. So Elijah Moore would be my Tier 8 play. Again, check back later on Saturday, and I'll put comments in the YouTube section and on Twitter. But that is my Week 12 early look. Thank you for joining me for a very special Thanksgiving Tears for Fears. Be sure to leave me a comment and let me know your favorite Tier 6 play on the Thanksgiving slate. That one's tough because it's obviously all the boom bust guys, but who's going to be the play that we all have to have? Let me know. And then also be sure to check back the comments section on Saturday because I'll post my favorite core plays, fades, and favorite plays for the Week 12 tiers slate. You can also check my Twitter at Megs08DFS on Saturday too. I'll post it there as well. Of course, before you get out of here, be sure to like this episode, subscribe to the Mayo Media Network, and check out Run the Sims to help you make your tiers decisions. With that, let's go make some money on 2 tier slates, and I'll see you next week.